This man undergoes such dangerous arm wrestling training that let alone defeating him, no one can even move his hand. But will he be able to compete against the world's most dangerous players? To find out, watch our story today. The story begins with a man named Mark, who used to arm wrestle in Korea, but is currently working as a security guard at a club in America. One day, his old friend Kim comes to visit and tries to convince him to participate in an arm wrestling competition. Mark wasn't interested, but Kim somehow convinced him. They went to the venue where people were placing bets on the players. The player Mark was set to face had won every match so far, so no one was willing to bet on Mark. The match began, and despite the opponent's best efforts, he couldn't even budge Mark's hand. Mark won the match in a snap and Kim made a lot of money. However, the opponent refused to accept defeat and started attacking Kim. Mark intervened, leading to a brawl, and Mark lost his job because of the fight. A week later, he found a job as a security guard at a shop. His life was going on as normal, but he often missed home. Then one day, Kim called him and asked him to come to Korea. There was an arm wrestling competition taking place there, and the winner would get a chance to compete internationally. Mark looked at his old medal and decided to pursue his old dream once again. When Mark arrived in Korea, Kim picked him up, and over a meal they discussed business. Kim wanted to become his agent and manage his career. He had full faith in Mark. His plan was to make Mark a player, bet money on him, and get rich from the winnings. After this, they toured the city all day. At night, they went to a club, but Mark just stood in the corner keeping watch. While returning to the hotel, Kim asked him if he had ever tried to find his real mother. Actually, Mark's mother had left him at an orphanage when he was a child. Mark replied that he had no interest in meeting the people who abandoned him. Kim dropped him off at the hotel. There, Mark saw a bouncing bed for the first time. There was also a gift from Kim in the room. Inside the box was a phone that contained his real mother's address. Meanwhile, Kim met a very wealthy gangster named Yo and asked him to place bets on Mark. At first, Kim was hung upside down for speaking to Yo without permission, but after Yo saw a video of Mark, he agreed to bet on him. However, he had one condition. Mark had to win or lose according to his orders. The next morning, Mark followed the map on the phone and reached the address. Before he could knock, he met two children who, seeing his massive physique, mistook him for a monster. Not wanting to scare them, he left without saying anything. The children then told their mother, Sumi, about this strange man. She watched from the window as Mark walked away. Sumi ran a clothing store that was running at a significant loss. She also owed a lot of money to the gangster Yo, who would frequently come to harass her. That day, Sumi saw Mark and Yo going into a mall club together. In reality, Kim had brought Mark to meet Yo. We also see a spoiled rich heir named Chain, who was Yo's partner and placed the highest bets. Then, Mark showed off his skill by defeating a huge man. Because of this, Mark and Kim were given a luxurious room in a 5-star hotel. Just then, Kim received a message from Yo saying that Mark must win the first match tomorrow but lose the second one. Kim was afraid Mark wouldn't agree to this. When they went to eat, Kim told him to lose the second match. Surprisingly, Mark agreed without any issue. The next morning, Sumi was getting the kids ready for school. Her son, June, was afraid the monster would come back, but Sumi reassured him. After the kids left, she took out old photos and saw a picture of Mark with her mother. Outside, the children saw Mark. June even threatened to call the police, saying, "I'll call the police and she'll break your bones, you'll see." We then see that Yo had called Korea's strongest arm wrestler combo to test Mark's ability. There was a huge crowd, and Mark easily defeated the 7-foot elephant-like man in the first match. Combo was quite impressed by this. Sumi had also come to watch Mark. During the break, Yo began harassing Sumi because she hadn't returned his money. Mark saw all of this. When the second match started, he won intentionally to humiliate Yo. When Yo tried to assert his dominance, Mark shoved him. Kim tried to calm both Mark and Yo down. Mark found out that all this happened because of Sumi, so he went to meet her the next day. Yo was also there and beat up Kim. Suddenly, Mark intervened and took on Yo's goons all by himself. Sometime later, the police arrived and arrested Mark and Kim. To bail Mark out, his ID was needed, but his bag and passport had been lost during the previous match. He arm-wrestled the police officers to prove he was truly an athlete, but they still wouldn't let him go. Just then Sumi arrived. Somehow she had found Mark's passport. It was then revealed that she was his stepsister and that his mother had actually passed away a year ago. Hearing this, Mark was heartbroken. The children asked him to come and live at their home. "Come on, uncle." Sumi's daughter, Jun-hee, would play with him, and her son, Jun-hyung, would talk to him a lot. Meanwhile, outside the house, some delinquent boys were smoking cigarettes. Even after Sumi asked them to stop, they didn't leave. But as soon as Mark appeared before them, they all ran away with their tails between their legs. The next day, Yo's men came to collect money from Sumi. Mark was leaving the house so he wouldn't be a burden on Sumi, but he chased the goons away. He then decided to stay there. For the next few days, the whole family ate good food, went out, and had fun together. It was difficult for Sumi to manage the kids along with her work. Her house was a mess. One day she came home to find everything perfectly clean. On top of that, Mark took very good care of the children. On the other hand, Kim was living in poverty. Seeing Mark with the kids, he got an idea. Why not make some money by showcasing Mark's tragic backstory? Mark agreed to this as well. Later, Mark was going out with his family. On the way, he saw Combo playing. Mark challenged him and by winning became everyone's favorite. A few weeks later, the story of his sorrowful childhood and struggles spread across the country. It became so famous that Mark and Kim earned a good amount of money. Now, the children began to think of Mark as their hero. One day on the way to school, they heard a woman bad-mouthing Mark. In response, Jun-hee said, "My uncle is a very amazing player. Shut up, old lady, or I'll snatch your wig." Mark promised her that he would win the country's biggest competition for her. We then see Kim's father, who worked very hard despite being old. Kim wanted to earn so much money, so he could give his father a good life. One day, Jun-hyung showed Mark the emails that Mark's mother used to write every day. It turned out she deeply regretted sending her son, Mark, to the orphanage. The poor woman wrote emails her whole life, but she didn't have Mark's address. She had seen that when Mark was with them, life was extremely difficult. They didn't even have money to feed him. She wanted her son to live a good life, so she hardened her heart and sent him to the orphanage. Before dying, her last wish was to meet Mark and apologize to him. Mark also learned that Sumi was not his biological sister. When Sumi's parents died, Mark's mother took her in. Hearing this, Mark was stunned and also felt angry at Sumi. A few days later, they were all visiting his mother's grave. On the way, Mark scolded Sumi harshly for lying. He had decided to go back to America. Kim tried to stop him because the competition was starting in a week, but Mark angrily told him, "You shut up. You just want to use my talent to make money." Meanwhile, Combo was preparing for the competition with full force. Gangster Yo had also prepared a thug named Kane, Punch. Kane had mercilessly broken the bones of everyone he arm-wrestled so far. Mark also left no stone unturned in his preparation before the tournament. Finally, the day of the competition arrived. The children were at home when they realized they forgot to give Mark his medal. They immediately caught a bus and reached the venue. After some time, they found Sumi and ran to her. The competition began. Mark and Combo were in different groups. They defeated everyone in their respective groups and reached the semifinals. Kane mercilessly broke many arms and reached the final. The millionaire Chain and his men bet all their money on Kane. However, seeing Mark's skill, they worried their money might be lost. So Chain threatened Yo, telling him to make Kane win by any means. Yo then gave Kim $200,000, saying Mark must lose to Combo in the semifinals. As usual, Kim got greedy and took the money, going straight to Mark. But Mark flatly refused to lose. Kim said this money could change his entire life, but for Mark, the promise made to his niece was far more important. Ultimately, he fought a tough match against Combo and won. During the break, Yo caught Kim and broke his bones. Mark defeated those goons one by one. Now Kim also let go of his greed for money and encouraged Mark to win with all his heart. Take it, take the money. The final match began, and everyone held their breath watching it. Kane cheated, causing Mark's hand to slip. He pulled Mark's thumb very hard, trying to injure him. Kane was moments away from winning when Mark's eyes fell on his niece and nephew, who were watching him with eyes full of hope. Suddenly, the uncle was filled with new energy, and he defeated Kane in a single stroke. Finally, Mark said on TV that he loves his mother very much. With his victory, everyone present had tears in their eyes. So if you had the chance, which sports star would you want to be? Be sure to tell us in the comments. See you in the next video.